At the dawn of time, in a kingdom forgotten by modernity but eternalized in the pages of history, rises the imposing figure of Absalom. Son of David, the legendary king of Israel, Absalom was a prince whose life was woven with threads of vengeance, betrayal, and unbridled ambition that challenged the heavens and shook the foundations of an empire. This is the story of his rise and fall, a tale that resonates through the centuries, reminding us of the dark depths the human soul can reach. Stay with us and let's explore all the details of Absalom's story. But first, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and activate the notification bell to be notified whenever there's a new video on the channel. Endowed with unparalleled beauty and a charisma that captivated hearts, Absalom was not just a handsome face in David's court. He was the personification of physical perfection, an ideal mirrored in his tumultuous spirit. The Bible narrates that in all of Israel, there was no man so praised for his beauty as Absalom, a blessing that would become his curse. Absalom lived during a crucial time in the history of Israel, under the reign of his father, David, approximately between 1010 and 970 BC. This was the peak of the United Kingdom of Israel, a period of expansion and unification under the leadership of a charismatic and warrior king celebrated both for his military conquests and his poetic psalms. At that time, life in Israel was predominantly agrarian, but was at a point of transition. Iron, a revolutionary resource, was changing the way wars were fought and tools were made. Religion permeated all aspects of life, with the temple and the priesthood playing central roles in governance and daily practice. Absalom's saga begins with a family tragedy, an event that would define the course of his life. His sister, Tamar, was cruelly violated by Amnon, his half-brother. This heinous act plunged Absalom into an abyss of rage and despair, igniting the fire of vengeance in his heart. For 2 long years, he silently nurtured his fury until the opportunity for revenge presented itself. At a banquet, under the guise of celebration, Absalom executed his macabre plan. Amnon, unsuspecting and intoxicated by the party, was murdered, a victim of Absalom's relentless wrath. This act of vengeance was just the beginning of his dark journey. Exiled to Gezer, his mother's land, Absalom spent 3 years away from the gaze of his father, David. During this time, his desire for power and recognition grew, fueled by resentment and distance from the throne. Eventually, through manipulations and intrigues, Absalom won his father's forgiveness and returned to Jerusalem. But his heart was not seeking reconciliation. He was after something more sinister. Back at the court, Absalom began to weave his web of conspiracy. With a charming smile and mellifluous words, he won the hearts of the people of Israel. His mornings were spent at the city gates, where he listened to the concerns and disputes of the people, always lamenting the lack of justice and insinuating that, under his leadership, things would be different. Absalom's pride and ambition knew no bounds. He mounted a majestic chariot, surrounded himself with 50 men as his personal guard, and began to behave more like a king than a prince. He seduced the people with promises of justice and equity, undermining his father's authority. Absalom's final blow came in the form of a cunningly planned betrayal. Under the pretext of fulfilling a vow in Hebron, he initiated an open rebellion against David. With secret messages and dark alliances, Absalom proclaimed himself king, triggering a civil war that tore the kingdom apart. The battle for the throne of Israel was brutal and bloody. Absalom, with his cunning and charisma, won the support of many, but he underestimated the loyalty and love that the people still had for David. The war culminated in a battle in the forest of Ephraim, where Absalom's fortune turned. In a moment of tragic irony, Absalom's own beauty was his downfall. As he fled through the dense forests, his long hair got caught in the branches of an oak tree, leaving him hanging, vulnerable and helpless. In this state, he was found by one of David's soldiers. Despite the king's instructions to spare his son's life, Joab, the commander of David's army, disobeyed. Seeing Absalom in this defenseless situation, Joab and his men did not hesitate to end the life of the rebellious prince. Absalom's death marked a turning point in the war. The rebel army, now leaderless, crumbled before David's loyal forces. The rebellion was crushed, but the victory came with a bitter price for David. When the news of Absalom's death reached him, his lament echoed throughout the kingdom, a profound expression of paternal grief that overshadowed any joy for the recovery of his throne. David, though a king and victorious, was broken. He ascended to the chambers above the city gate, weeping and lamenting, "My son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died in your place, Absalom, my son, my son." This cry of pain reflected the tragedy of a royal family torn apart by pride, power, and vengeance. Absalom's death was not just the end of a rebellious son. It was also the culmination of a series of failures and transgressions within David's own family. Absalom's life serves as a grim reminder of the devastating consequences of unbridled ambition, blind vengeance, and betrayal within one's own family. The story of Absalom, intertwined with themes of vengeance, betrayal, and ambition, is a narrative that resonates through the ages. It teaches us about the complexity of human relationships, especially within the dynamics of a family. It shows how actions motivated by negative emotions can lead to disastrous consequences, not just for the individual but also for everyone around them. In the end, Absalom's life is a parable about the dangers of unchecked power and vengeance. His legacy is a warning for all generations about how the path of uncontrolled ambition can lead to destruction, not just of oneself but also of those who are dearest to us. And thus, the story of Absalom remains, an eternal reminder of the shadows that can hide in the human heart and the twisted paths the pursuit of power can trace. I hope you enjoyed the content and subscribe to the channel to increase your knowledge. Until the next video.